Hello, I'm Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks, episode 412, Trend Focus, the Collected Look. And we do like talking about how to create a collected look.
It's such a beautiful way to decorate. And, one we've touched on here and there, but we figured we'd sort of drill down and narrow the focus just onto the collected look today. Part of the reason we wanted to pick out a sort of a trend to discuss today is because the interview we have is with someone who is known as a trend forecaster. So,
very interesting.
Yes.
Well, and this is new for us. I'm excited that it's our first interview.
I know. It really was fun. I did an interview with this woman, Amy Azzarito, who wrote a wonderful book, which is the subject of our giveaway, The Elements of a Home, Curious Histories Behind Everyday Household Objects from Pillows to Forks. And it's a great book. We were sent the book by Amy's publisher. Anita and I both really enjoyed it. And they reached out to us. We said yes. And, here we are. We have an interview to share with you. But before we get to that interview, we want to talk about the collected look because it's a really lovely way to decorate. And it's a wonderful time, if you will, in our collective experience where you can go through all of your wonderful items and choose and curate the things that you want to highlight in your room. And you can start developing this collected look because it's not necessarily things you need to go out and buy. It may be a lot of things that you already have on hand. And having things on hand now in our surreal existence is a great thing. So we can help you play around with some of the stuff you already have and start on the road to this collected look. Even if you haven't, explored this in your decorating at all, we can start now.
Well, I love the idea. Like you said, this is just it's not easy to go out and buy something new right now. So what a great thing to embrace that everything's going to be a little mishmash. Everything's going to be pulled together. Not everything's going to be matchy-matchy. So it's wonderful that is the trend right now because that is our reality. But you know what, Kelly, also the thing I like about it is that it is a look that is less expensive. This look means you can take what you've got as a starting point and then work from there. So it's not a situation where you're going to have to, if you want to use a collected look, it is not a situation where you're going to have to go throw out everything you have and start from scratch. You can build on what you have, move things around, and it's very forgiving, very fluid, very flexible. And so there's a lot to love about this particular style.
Well said. And just in case anyone's listening to this 6 months, a year, 6 years, 60 years from now, we are recording this during the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is why we're saying that you might not be able to just hop and skip down to your local antique store or your local Home Goods or wherever to purchase something. So that's why we're referencing that right now. But yeah, the collected look, I think, one of the things that I love about it so much is it really gives you the freedom to be you and to be authentic. You are putting together your own look. And if you get anything from listening to this podcast, this is the one thing we want you to take away. If all the other specific tips fell away and you couldn't remember one thing, remember that we want you to develop your own style. And the collective look is an embodiment of you. It is going to be your style and it's going to be different from your neighbor. It's going to be different from Kelly's, from Anita's, from anybody, from any of the designers that you see in magazines or books that you like and enjoy. Even if you love what they're doing and you have bits and pieces of that, if you do it in a collected way, it's all going to be about you.
Absolutely. That's the other fun thing about this is that no two houses are going to look the same with this collected look. And I guess that's true with any style, but especially with this one, it's very much based on your personal taste and what you've pulled together, all your favorite things. So it's really one of the most unique styles that you can come up with, because sometimes I look at two rooms that are the same style and I think, wow, they look like almost the same room.
Right. So if you say, "Oh, I'm doing a mid-century room," well, your mid-century room will look just like somebody else's mid-century room.
Right.
Obviously, they might not have exactly the same furniture, but it's going to evoke the same feel. Oh, I'm going to do, even though you would say it's a sort of a French country, but you've developed your own style. You have, the rustic pieces. You have the bits of the Texas feel to it. You've made that style your own. So the collective look, you may have a base style like Anita does or like I do, but then you're going to add things that are going to make it your own and things that are going to be reflective of where you are, where you've been, and where you're going. And you can take that in the literal sense and or the figurative sense. So you're going to be mixing a lot of different things, a lot of different experiences and places you've been, things that you love, put it all together in a very unique way.
And this is, I think, indicative of our styles too, because I've always felt like I've heard other people say this doesn't work for them, but I've always felt deep down that if you buy things that you truly love, you can usually make them all work together because there's some underlying theme that makes them work together that maybe your subconscious was aware of, but you weren't. But it's interesting how if I just like things and I put them together, but they're different styles, they usually make sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that collected look is different than the eclectic look, which eclectic is fun. Oftentimes it's very colorful and there's a lot of different things going on, obviously. But if it's not done really well, it can look a little haphazard, where the collected look is truly curated. So maybe some of those other tips that we have passed along, all along all the episodes we were doing, like the limited color palette and things like that, and paying attention to balance and scale. Like if all those things come together and they play a part in your collected look, even if the things are very different, they're going to work together. First because you love them, and second maybe because they're all in a limited color palette. So those other things will help you along to curate this look.
Right. And you want to kind of continue that theme throughout your house. Just like you said, use a limited color palette, but also try to kind of spread things out so that not all your Moroccan things are in one room and your country French is in another room and your mid-century moderns in another room.
Right.
You want it to feel like it all flows together. So you want to kind of mix those things around.
Yeah. Case in point, I've been adding more modern pieces, but, they have to be the certain modern piece. And it has to, have some of that, like you would describe it maybe. And I appreciate that very much. The Paris apartment kind of modern piece that I'm adding to, my more of my old world look or in my older house. So in my small office, I realized, well, everything kind of just has the old world look. Obviously there's the built-in cabinets, there's some computers in there, but the chairs looked older, the even the knobs, all these things. So I just added a pair of much more modern chairs, gray upholstered, sort of streamlined with gold legs, very slim metal gold legs. And man, do they look good. And that's carrying it through because I've been adding just a few modern pieces, like the lamp in my living room and the chaise in the other side of my living room, and a few things in different places. And now that I'm carrying that little punch of modern look throughout, it's really making the whole house flow better rather than just having it in that one room.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So what are some things that you can do to get the collect? Well, clearly no matchy-matchy.
Right.
Because, unless, you're talking about two lamps or something like that, but you don't want a whole set of something that looks like, you just bought, like room in a box. Like that is not the collected.
But, but let me step back to when we're talking about the collected look and putting all these different disparate styles together. I wouldn't add too many different styles. I think then it tends to look kind of crazy and out of control. So again, like with the limited color palette, I think I would limit the number of styles and not have too many different ones in your house.
Yeah. Variety of textures and finishes. And again, there's a limit to that. You don't want 10 different metal finishes. Maybe you pick 2, 3 tops, but definitely a lot of texture and different finishes. Again, just to show that these things have different hallmarks. They're coming from different places. Yes, and as Anita mentioned, you mixing furniture styles, but again, you don't want to have one of each style, in the decor book in there. Mix a couple of styles together, and old and new, treasures from your travels if you have any, and it doesn't have to be crazy exotic. Oh, the time I went on safari, with Isaac Dennison. It can be just, your trip to wherever and you got a seashell, but it's part of your travels. And if you have a collection of something, obviously the collected look, can house a collection somewhere. So, put it out on display. It's great to be able to put a collection all together, unless it's humongous, because en masse, it's going to have a lot more presence than if you put one vase here and another one over there and another piece over there. So try to display them together and see how you feel about that look. One resource, which is wonderful to get a sense and some inspiration for the collected look, is a hashtag on Instagram. Some bloggers that I'm friendly with have been utilizing this hashtag. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were doing it for quite some time. And so there's a number of posts there which are hashtag collected look. And if you don't know how to search a hashtag on Instagram, it's super easy. You just go to that little search magnifier, and then you would just put in the hashtag, so the number sign, and then the collected look, and you will get the images that have that hashtag on it. So I was on there this morning looking, and you just fall down that rabbit hole. Everything is more beautiful than the next. So definitely take a look there.
Well, and what you're talking about with the limited color palette too, I think we've done that with our white pictures. You have a collection of white pictures, and the reason that just looks so calm, cool, and collected, is because they're all the same color. Just like I've got all the white dishes in my kitchen, it feels very calm and peaceful because they're all the same color. So I think that can add some balance and calmness to a room if you have a lot of things in there.
Yes, so true. I like that idea. Don't you just love a great recommendation from a friend? Well, we're delighted to be recommending these companies and their wonderful products to you today. And let them know your friends at DTT sent you. Green Chef is a delicious delight any time of year, but especially during the holidays. What a wonderful vision to behold as the Green Chef boxes on your doorstep. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for eating well. And it makes eating well so easy with plans to fit every lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat a more balanced diet. So let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season. And if you've got guests coming, shop Green Bundles. They're now available at the Green Market. It's your one-stop shop for nutritious grab-and-go breakfasts, including vegan options, brunch kits, wholesome lunches, ready-to-eat snacks, veggie sides, and more. You can feel your best this December and do your best with Green Chef because they offset 100% of the delivery emissions as well as 100% of the plastic in every box. Go to greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT and get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. greenchef.com/60DTT and use the code 60DTT to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. BritBox just keeps getting better. The new Archie is amazing. And it's not the comics. It's about Cary Grant. Archie is the brand new limited series starring Jason Isaacs as Archie Leach, the man who became Cary Grant. From the award-winning screenwriter of Philomena, Archie tells Grant's born in Britain, made in Hollywood story, the dramatic grit to glamour transformation that led him to become one of the most famous people in the world. You are going to absolutely love the acting, but also the styling, the outfits, the scenery. It's the first time his story has been told in collaboration with his daughter Jennifer Grant and ex-wife Diane Cannon. The performances from Jason Isaacs and the rest of the cast are amazing, and it's only available on BritBox. So sign up for BritBox today to stream Archie and other fan favorites from any device. And we have a special limited time offer for our U.S. and Canadian listeners. Get 50% off. Yes, that's 50% off your first month when you sign up for a monthly plan. But only if you go to BritBox.com and use our promotion code DTT at checkout. You're going to love Archie. So head over right now and get 50% off your first month of BritBox. Use the promotion code DTT at BritBox.com. Anita and I are so delighted to be speaking with Amy Azzarito today. She's the author of a fabulous new book, The Elements of a Home, Curious Histories Behind the Everyday Household Objects from Pillows to Forks. And you know how we love our history here at Decorating Tips and Tricks. So Amy, we are so excited to have you here. Let me tell everybody a little bit about you, because maybe you're not going to want to toot your own horn, but we want everyone to know that you have a master's degree in the history of decorative arts and designs and also in library science. You have lectured at universities and historical societies all over the country. You were the managing editor for Design Sponge for 5 years, and you had a column there on design history. You are also a librarian at the New York City Public Library for 8 years, and you have written extensively for different publications like Architectural Digest and Design Milk, as well as Brit & Co. and many others. So, Amy, welcome to Decorating Tips and Tricks today.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
The book is fantastic.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, fill us in a little bit about yourself and the book, and then we'll get started into, a few more details.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, the real aha moment in terms of writing this book was when I found that master's program that you mentioned in the history of decorative arts and design. It was a collaboration between Parsons and the Cooper Hewitt Museum, and which is, if you ever have a chance, I don't know if you've ever been. But
I have. It's fantastic.
It's just an amazing place, and that's where I got to go to school. I don't even remember how many times I was going, 3 times a week, say. Mm-hmm. But they're at the museum, and we were really trained to look closely at objects and zoom out from there and see what the object is telling us about the world and culture. Then when Grace approached me to write a column for Design Sponge.
That's Grace Bonney from Design Sponge.
Thank you. Yeah, Grace Bonney from Design Sponge. And I was a giant fan of the site already at that point. So I was so excited and wanted to do something immediately new. I wanted to write about objects and design history. She was also really excited and helped me. One of the things she really helped me do was write for in a more accessible way than one is generally trained to do at school. So with her help, I started writing in a way that was just a little bit, just less academic.
Oh, so at school, you're writing really for papers for other historians and whatnot. Is that right?
Right. Okay. At school, you're writing. Yeah, it's probably a lot like being a lawyer. It's like, how many large words can we fit into this one?
Or do you get paid by the word
to throw people off?
Yeah, what is that? Right.
Grace would be like, can you say this a little differently?
Right.
So I got a lot of great practice and help, and kind of blended those two worlds.
Book is fantastic. So tell us, everyone, now how it's broken down, because I love that it's in sort of these bite-sized pieces. You could sit down and you could read about a champagne flute, or you could sit down and read about, some other object, a plate or something like that, and learn something and, maybe 10 minutes or less, right? It's a great book to sort of take to bed with you. You read a little section, you feel like you got a little information. A lot of the stories are just very, very anecdotal, and they're funny, and you learn about historical figures. You might not have even associated them with these particular objects and whatnot. So why don't you tell everybody, since the book is just out, so they may not have seen it yet, how the book is broken down, and what your objective is, I guess, with each of the chapters.
So the book is organized around objects rather than, say, people or design movements. I wanted it to feel very, even though it's history, I wanted it to feel very accessible and connected to our lives today. So there's nothing in here that you wouldn't see in today's home. So I have the history of the bathtub, the candle, the wine glass, the wreath. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's so
a lot of things.
The mirror. I mean, really the only thing that I can think of that someone might not have, but they've all played Clue, so everybody knows about a jib door. They might not know what it was called, but that's interesting to know. And when you see one, you can be like, oh, there's a jib door. It makes you fabulous at cocktail parties, having read this
That's
book.
true, right. And that's sort of why I put that one in there. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's one of those things that you might have seen, but you just don't really why is it there and why do people have it?
Right.
And
yes.
Right. But for the most part, people will be familiar with everything.
There's 63 items in the book, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
And I think it's so nice because it is something that it's most of the things, and if 60 plus of the things are things people are almost going to be touching or using or experiencing in their homes every single day. And it is stuff that we just sort of take for granted that's there. And in years past, in ancient history and sometimes not so ancient history, people didn't have these objects and they certainly didn't function the way they do now. So it gives you such an appreciation for the things that you encounter in your own home on a daily basis. So I think that renewed sense of appreciation and sort of gratitude for where we are with these things is really nice. And you may not even think about that when you're first reading the book because you're kind of enjoying the anecdotes and just, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And that's so interesting. And Cleopatra was involved with that too, kind of thing. But when it really boils down, it does give you a different appreciation for the stuff we handle every day that makes our lives a little bit better and our homes more decorative and easier to function in.
Right. I do say in the introduction that, we all are living here in the Western world. If we're lucky, we all are living like the kings of, a very, not even that far distant past when you think about it. I mean, the fact that we can control the temperature and have light when it's dark, have a comfortable place to sleep. Those are things that would have just been the height of luxury at one time. And so thinking about that, it gives you, I don't hit the reader over the head with that in the individual section. Right. So if you I think it would be difficult to read it and not come away feeling a sense of gratitude for all of the objects that we have in our homes.
Right.
And appreciation for the people who lived without those things. But it certainly is meant to be just fun and engaging, and maybe you can learn a little something that you can impress people with at a cocktail party or at dinner when the conversation lulls, or at least turn the conversation away from the news. Hey,
exactly.
Did you know?
And but it definitely does underline the idea of like your house is your castle. Well put. There's not too long ago where people didn't have any of these things that we live with every day. So it's such a fun read. I really recommend everyone picking it up. And Amy has so generously offered to do a giveaway with us, which we'll have information on at the show notes for this episode on how you can enter for a chance to win a signed copy of The Elements of a Home, Curious Histories Behind Everyday Household Objects from Pillows to Forks. But not only is Amy a historian and really fun to chat with, but she also is a trend predictor. And I don't know if she was doing that necessarily in connection with her days at Design Sponge, or that's just a fun thing that she's been doing as a historian, if it comes from that. But we're going to kind of put Amy on the spot today and ask her to predict some trends that she sees coming down the pike, because we know all of you love to hear about trends.
Yeah, trends are fun.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's dial back. How do you become a trend
Sure.
predictor? Is this like, someone like, hey, you're really good at knowing what's going to happen. Like, you predicted this, or you saw millennial pink coming down the pike. Like, how did you become a trend predictor? Because everybody might want to become a trend
How do you
predictor.
become a trend predictor? Well, I mean, I think you first have to be predicting trends. And the way you know what trends are upcoming is you spend a lot of time doing what some people call educating your eye.
Mm-hmm.
And that just means seeing a lot of stuff. So going to museums, going to very high-end boutiques, and even high-end antique stores. And not necessarily, you can also do this all online if you're staying at home, but not necessarily to buy anything, but just looking and seeing what are they buying, what woods is this shop purchasing, what is everything, and just trying to notice some of the commonalities and similarities. What color is the wall? What color are their floors? And stores have obviously a big incentive on staying very forward thinking. But it's easier to do this in the stores that you probably, would never purchase anything from. And
Exactly.
everybody has boutiques. Everybody knows what stores I'm
Right. Like you're not going to
about.
predict a trend by, visiting all the TJ Maxx in your county. Like you need to be going to places where they're pushing the envelope a little bit.
Exactly. And you can get very overwhelmed by, say if you're shopping at Goodwill and, before you go to the Goodwill to pick out the things that are going to be like amazing in your home, go to the insanely expensive antique store in your town and see what they have purchased and then go back to the Goodwill. So doing a lot of that, educating your eye and reading magazines and blogs and listening to podcasts like these. I've been doing that for a really long time. And so it's amazing. I'm sure you've noticed it too, right? You just start noticing, I'm
Right.
seeing a lot of people using this thing. I'm seeing less of this or that. And you start to pay attention to those trends. And so I have written about trends now on Design Sponge. It was also very popular content. We would do a lot of trend writing. And when I moved out to California and started doing more freelancing as I was working on the book, trying to focus on that, I was asked to do some trend consulting for different brands.
Ooh, trend consulting. That sounds really fun. Does that not involve a magic ball? It involves all these things you're explaining.
It does, yeah. So I would put together presentations and just kind of try to, for what I saw coming down the pipeline, what seemed like.
Now, have you seen, now you've been doing this for years, have you seen that it's, is it a cyclical situation? Is it sort of a pendulum swings really far one way? Everybody's got all white walls and all white furniture and everything is white. And then they swings back and everyone now is doing really bold color again. So do you see it going back and forth or does it kind of go around or something else?
I feel like it probably is a little bit slower than magazines and retailers would like us to think. Because when you're making changes in particularly your home, fashion does move more quickly. They always say, because that's another good place to look for trends is looking at the runway shows. So I think it does move more slowly, and I think it's always different. So I think if you walk, you don't want your home to look like the set of Mad Men, even if you do like mid-century design. I mean, you just can't have all of it. It needs to be very, you don't want all of it. You don't want it to look like it's too themey.
Right. We're always encouraging all our listeners to develop their own style. Even if like you say, even if mid-century is your thing, you got to mix it up a little bit and really put your own mark on it. Right.
You don't want to be buying everything from one place or once. And that goes for Pottery Barn, but it also goes for your favorite thrift store,
right.
So you want to just try to, and that I know can feel scary and challenging. but yeah, that's how I came to trends and kind of what I've done.
Can we peek into your brain? Is there something you see coming down? Now we're sort of well, I guess we're at the end of the first quarter of 2020. Is there anything that you see that hasn't been predicted yet, or something that's going to go away that was predicted? What do you see in there?
One of the big things that I see, you mentioned white walls, and white walls are still very popular, particularly here in California, where you and I both are. We have a lot of white. But I think that we'll start seeing, and we already are, but more and more texture. So lime wash paint, for example, plaster. There's this, do you know the Jersey ice cream?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, they have a beautiful Instagram account.
They do. I'll link that in the show notes for
People
anybody who doesn't.
Definitely follow them. And they've been doing amazing plaster work. But if you can't afford someone to come and plaster your wall, there is lime wash paint. That's an amazing option. And and there are some companies that you just Google that and you can find some lime wash paints, and that actually dates back. Is a technique that dates back to Roman times, so it does tie in with my
here's our historian. History. Right, perfect.
Yeah, so it's lime wash. It's made from limestone that's been crushed and burned, and then it's mixed with water, and it makes this putty. And the paint gives you that kind of textured effect. So
that sounds like a complicated DIY. This is something you would definitely want to buy pre-made.
Yeah. Don't do the DIY. Yeah, buy the can. Save yourself time. Buy the can of paint. But so that's a place where I think we'll start seeing some movement to textured. More textured
I like
walls.
that. We're getting some really good insight here.
Yeah, so that's fun. And then more pattern, more patterns, even busier patterns, florals, as opposed to we've been in this space where there's been a lot of tonal rooms. So like everything, I'm in my bedroom right now and it's very tonal actually. So it's like white walls, white bedspread. But I think we'll start seeing a little bit of a move away from that, and the accent coming from a big, bold pattern. So like almost reminiscent of maybe a brocade. So a bold floral headboard, for example, something like that. So just a little more pattern, more niches. So like that's been a thing that we're seeing a lot in retail spaces.
Actual physical niches, like in the wall?
Yeah, like in the wall.
Oh, wow. Because I find that those didn't they get popped into houses a lot in the 80s? And then you were like, what do I do with that thing?
I know. But they're in a lot of stores. I'm actually thinking of putting one in my pantry. I have like this thick wall, and I'm thinking of cutting out a space and then putting shelves inside of it.
So like going between the studs. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I think, which I think also was something. There actually was one of those niches in this. My house was built in the 60s. And I covered it because it was in a weird spot. So I covered it up. I was like, we can't. And now I'm thinking of putting one in, just for somebody else to cover up.
We do it?
Yeah. So it does. Dark doors, I think, are looking really fresh.
Oh, okay, great. Because I'm painting the doors in my hallway black. Yeah.
You are?
I am.
I love that. What color is your hardware?
Well, it's all super old. That was originally with the house because my house is from 1886. So it's all so I'm not going to change the hardware. So it's mostly unlacquered brass. That's, clearly
patina.
That's
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I love the dark door. I just feel it looks historic and older, but it also feels really fresh because we're so used to the white door thing in interior spaces. So there's something really historic yet fresh about it.
And in a hallway, it gives something, because mine is long and narrow and you can't really have any furniture or anything. It's even hard to have something on the wall because you can't really appreciate it because you're so on top of the wall. So it kind of gives me an opportunity to do something interesting in the hall.
Hmm. That's cool.
Thanks.
That's
Any
exciting.
trends that you say were like that were predicted this year that you think are just like, oh no, Led Zeppelin's not going to fly?
Um, I am. I don't know if I'm. I don't know. I have no idea whether this is right. I am a little bit over like the over the top terrazzo.
Yeah.
That particularly as a pattern,
Right.
and I don't know if people know, but it's like the tiny. It's also another sort of ancient technique, but it's you see like the tiny little specks, and it was like on everything, on
Right.
mugs and on um and used as a pattern. I'm pretty over that. I don't know if
So like
that's
terrazzo tile, but used as a pattern.
terrazzo tile used as a pattern, and real like terrazzo is still kind of interesting, but
Hmm.
I don't know. Um, I don't. It's a lot. It's a big look.
Yeah.
So I'm not. Yeah, I'm a little over that. Let's see. Rattan and wicker has been popular for a while. I'm still. I love that still, and I think that has some staying power.
So what
Yeah.
object from your book is your favorite object to write
Mm.
about? Which one did you think was the most interesting? I mean, that's like asking people to
Children.
say their favorite children, right? Yeah. Who's your favorite? But if you had to pick one,
Well, if I had to pick one, I do love the history of the fork.
hmm
And I think, I love it because we use it every single day, many times a day. Uh, and that wasn't always the case. And I think that's an example of how shocking some of the history, when you get into the history of these objects, just
well,
thinking about
didn't
a
you write that
time.
the fork was actually considered an instrument of the devil?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
it wasn't just not used. Yeah. That's right.
apparently, both my girls felt that way when they were younger because I could not get them to eat with a fork. They wanted to always use their hands till, way beyond they should have been doing that. They might have
No,
known that history.
that they must have. No, and it is, when you think about it, right. I've heard people who have young children say the opposite, say their kids were like so excited to use a fork when they
Hmm
finally got a fork because it seemed like just a thing. But yeah, it was considered immoral and unhygienic and a tool of the devil. That was because it sort of the shape is reminiscent of a pitchfork,
Oh,
particularly the
yes.
very early dining forks, which
Right.
were a two-pronged or maybe three-pronged. I mean, they really looked like it could be a devil's pitchfork. People ate with
Interesting.
their hands, and interestingly, they were very hygienic about the hand eating. So washing was a very ceremonious and ritualized activity. It was, there wasn't, you didn't go to the bathroom and do it privately. You were doing it in public.
Oh, and probably
So,
people
so
weren't
you're,
maybe
so
helping
you're,
them. Right.
yes, right. So people are very careful when other
hmm
people are watching them. So you're doing it in front of everyone. One of the reasons they think that maybe people thought the fork was unhygienic is because there weren't that many of them, and so you had to share them. So,
Oh,
so,
wow.
could have probably been
Yeah.
unhygienic.
That would
But
do it. Yeah.
that would kind of do it, yeah. But then uh, there, when sugar started to become more readily available, there was a candy made that was made with fruit, so it was very sticky and sweet and syrupy, and it was the craze for that sweet, that candy that brought back the fork or that
Oh
made
my
people feel comfortable
gosh.
using a fork. So
They were willing to make a deal with the
they had
devil
a
to eat the sweet.
basically, I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They were totally scared until the sweet tooth took over, and
That is
then
so funny. Oh my
no one
gosh.
cared anymore. So yeah, that is probably one of my favorites.
My two
Just
favorites, I couldn't decide which. So
oh
I
yeah, what are
two
yours?
favorites is the chandelier, which I have one in my
Oh,
house. Well, I have several, but I have one that's very big in my dining room. And so I loved reading about that and how that came to be, and the development of what it looked like initially, just metal and like a couple of prongs, and then the gems, and then the leaded crystal. Very interesting. And then the rose, which, definitely is an object, if you will, a flower that's in my house all the time. I love to have fresh flowers around. So, and I'm a gardener, so I loved learning about that. And in that chapter about the rose, you also mentioned a fabric, which I thought at first was my very favorite Schumacher pattern, the pine hollyhock, but I kind of sussed it out. And am I right? Is it the Manor Rose that Dorothy Draper designed?
I think you are right.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd make me have to go back to my notes.
I'm guessing that might be it. And then the next paragraph, you're talking about the Desert Rose pattern, which was Anita's all-time favorite pattern for her plates, her china, and she is fanatical about dishes and whatnot. So I just thought that was so interesting that those two were close together in that chapter. So I think everybody that listens to this podcast is going to enjoy your book immensely. Let me ask you one last question. Talk to us about your approach to decorating. So, how do you start a project? I don't know where you are as far as your own home. If, are any of us ever done who love to do this sort of thing? Probably not. But I don't know if you're renovating or all you need to do is hang a few things on the wall, or where you're at in your own home. But in general, how do you approach decorating a space?
Yeah, I feel like nothing's ever finished, I have to say. So I have a lot of rooms that I feel like I've done a good job starting and then not finished. The most finished space in my home is probably my daughter's nursery, which doesn't really seem fair, but
but must have been so much fun to do.
It has been. I've had the opportunity over the years to work with different designers, and Sage, actually, who runs an Instagram account called City Sage, helped me with the nursery. And from working with designers, because I am trained as a historian, not as a practicing designer, but I have really learned the importance of planning and making Pinterest boards and making just different collages before you start purchasing the big pieces. And so sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. My home is in this weird, not weird, but just in a transition space because I have a 10-month-old. So I feel like I'm constantly moving stuff around and just trying to make it function better. And that's probably one of the things that I spend a lot of time, like, what about this space isn't working? Why are people throwing all their coats on this chair?
Right.
Is there a way we can get them? And that's probably where I'm at right now with my decorating, being less about what's the photo I want to hang above the fireplace, and more about how do I create something where it's really where people trip over the place where they hang up the coats versus putting everything on this chair.
Right.
That's been my
functionality. Maybe
functionality is really important, but I do usually start by making some kind of a Pinterest board and collage and trying to go from there. And then other than that, I just try to be really willing to change. So the fixture I had above my dining room table did not work. I had to change it. I just think being willing to change. And the more you work with designers, I find that part is something that a lot of people don't realize, like how much doesn't work. Right. How many things they'll try in the space. Like when you work with someone, they'll try something in the space, and if it doesn't work, it goes back. That's probably the value of working with a designer. Actually.
Oh, that's a great tip. Because sometimes people feel, especially, you want to check the return policies then, but you're spending time researching it, you're spending money on it. Sometimes it's hard to return something, but having that openness that, hey, if it doesn't work out, either this is going to go into another room or it's I'm going to just take it back and start over. And that's okay too, because you learn the most from that.
Right. Or just making the mistakes. And when you see designers, I mean, I worked with Betsy Jen of Sneed That. She has a great eye. She's in Southern California also and does a lot of vintage and things like that. And she helped me when I was in an apartment and came with and she uses vintage, but came with like a truck of stuff.
Oh,
fun. And only half of, it was so fun, but only half of it she tried different tables, doesn't work, doesn't, and being fluid, I think is one of the most, so that's something I try to remind myself.
Pesto pork chops over Parmesan polenta. Not that easy to say, but oh, so easy to make with Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit company for eating well, and we have such a great deal for you. You're going to save $250. Listen on for the details on that. Green Chef makes eating well easy for any lifestyle, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat more balanced meals. You know, we're getting into the busy holiday season, so it's a perfect time to have Green Chef help you out. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with their chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients and nothing artificial. And you know what? You don't have to lose track of your healthy eating habits during the holidays. Every Green Chef customer gets a free session with their registered dietitians who will walk you through how to make clean eating work for you. So sign up for your free session and start on the road towards better health today. And that deal I want to tell you about, visit greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. So that's greenchef.com/DTT250 and use the code DTT250 for $250 off your order. Go ahead, clean out your closet, then head straight to Quince. I love every item Quince offers, from wardrobe to decor, and I can really recommend their Ultra Stretch Super Wide Leg Pant at $49.90. The price is unbeatable, and the look is so flattering. It keeps you in on top and flares out of the bottom. Everything feels right with Quince. The price, the quality, and the sustainability. Quince offers a range of luxury wardrobe and home goods at prices within reach. And like Quince's clothing, their home goods are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. Once you've cleaned out your closet and refreshed with Quince, you can also add something to your home decor. So give your wardrobe and your home the refresh it needs with Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. And let me know how you love those pants.
I like that, being fluid. That's a great tip.
It's got to be fluid. Yeah. They say your tastes change. Erin from Apartment 38 told me your tastes change every 5 years. So pretty much as soon as you're done with a room, I guess you're ready to do it again. I was like, oh my goodness, that's depressing.
That's very interesting you say that, because we're going on just 5 years here. And they talk about in marriage, the 7-year itch. Thank goodness I never got that. But I've definitely got the 5-year itch. All of a sudden I was like, I want to add some more modern pieces and I want something more streamlined. And why did I even like that lamp? But it's fun now going back around again. My husband's like, what? Didn't we do all this? Is this not
Well, it's hard because your life changed. So 5 years ago, you had two youngish teenagers at home.
Right.
You know, almost teen. And so it's totally different than as you're moving to
right. People that use forks.
People that use forks that don't touch the walls as much.
Oh, no, the touching of the walls. I don't know when that ends. That might end when you graduate from college, or I don't know, maybe after you have your first job.
That's why I'm kind of excited about this textured paint thing, I have to say. I'm about ready to try this lime wash because
I think a lot of people will be now that you mentioned that.
Yeah,
Amy, thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your wonderful book with us, which have definitely giving us all a renewed appreciation for the objects in our lives. Thanks, Amy. Have a great day.
Kelly.
Well, I loved talking to Amy, and I hope you all enjoyed that interview. We might decide to do some more interviews as we go along, so let us know how you felt about that. Let's talk about our hot topic today.
Well, I think this is very timely, and I was so excited when I saw this link. It is a list of museums that you can visit virtually. Isn't that timely?
I love it.
So, the title of the article is Stuck at Home. These 12 famous museums offer virtual tours you can take on your couch.
Oh, I love it. That is so fun. I saw the article that you sent, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait to dig into this. So I hope that everybody enjoys that. We'll have that linked in the show notes. And there are some museums in there that I've been to before and ones that I would probably never get to. So I'm really excited about taking those tours.
Right. I mean, there's the British Museum in London, the Guggenheim in New York, a National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., and the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. So
I was recently there last summer, and there's also the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam and a few other ones. So yeah, I think you're going to really enjoy it. My crush today is an issue of Veranda magazine, the March and April. Do you know sometimes when you just get a magazine and every page is fantastic, and every article just really, is engrossing, and the photos, you're just like, oh, I want to dive in, or you find yourself dog-earing it. Well, that happens not that often. And I have to say, I enjoy magazines all the time, but sometimes there's just a standout. And I really felt that this particular issue of Veranda, it's the March, April. So if you can get your hands on that, really, you should, because I think you'll all enjoy it. And tucked inside there was a great offer, which I took advantage of. Because oftentimes I just buy my magazines when I go grocery shopping, but I'm not really grocery shopping right now. Because I just sort of treat myself when I go out and I don't order them through the mail. But this is Veranda and House Beautiful for a year for $17.
Oh, ooh.
Right? Deal.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those where I think then they just, they keep signing you up after the year unless you tell them stop. It's one of those things. But for $17 to get those two magazines delivered right to your door, I think that's great. So if you have a chance to check out the March, April Veranda, or maybe you can even look on it online. I don't know how much they put online. If
they won't deliver it to my house, I don't think I'm getting it.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. I'll see if I can get that. That is I can't wait. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to check those out.
Yeah.
Both of the magazines.
What's your crush?
My crush is a tea that I've been thoroughly enjoying. Harney and Sons has an herbal fruit tea sampler that I am just enjoying immensely. And you can drink it hot or cold, but I've been drinking it hot mostly. But the beautiful part of it is if you have a little left over in your pot or in your cup, just put it in your fridge for a little bit and you can drink it cold later. So I'd had their peach before and I was looking to buy some online. As you were saying, we're not going out right now, and I couldn't find it by itself. So it kind of forced me to buy their sampler set, which has the strawberry, kiwi, peach, mango, berry, passion fruit, blood orange. There's 6 tins, and it has been such a delight to drink these. Now, I love these. I love all teas, but these are herbal, so you can drink them all day long. As much as I love English breakfast tea, I cannot drink it all day or I'm just jittery. But the herbal teas you can have all the time, right before bed and all day long, and you can't have really too much of them. So yeah, I highly recommend these. These are absolutely delicious. It's a fabulous brand that I've been buying from for many, many years, and I'll include the link.
Right. Okay. So our question today is from Andrea M. Loved getting Andrea's email. She's a horse trainer, and she often listens to DTT while she's riding horses. Have you felt sometimes the wind in your hair and as if you were just riding, through a meadow? Well, we have been, Anita. We have been with Andrea, and I just love it that she's been enjoying the podcast in that way. So fun. That might be one of the most unique ways we've heard of people listening to us. We're definitely on, any workout machines, walking dogs, and cleaning, doing dishes, household things for sure, gardening, definitely, but while riding a horse. That was pretty good.
Yes, it does.
Andrea's question is, let me set it up. She's got an 1880s farmhouse. She has most of the home painted in Benjamin Moore's Mountain Peak white with pure white trim and a semi-gloss. She is she is painting her dining room, I guess, and it has wainscoting all around. And she wants to know our opinion as to whether or not she should paint the wainscoting in the wall color or in the trim color.
I would say to match the trim color. That would be my recommendation, and that's the way I normally see it. I mean, that's what I see 99% of the time. Do you see it the other way?
No, not normally. But again, you could do that if it worked for you.
Sure. I mean, it's right. It's not that you can't do it, but it's not the typical for sure.
And I like the way it looks when you have beadboard, wainscoting, shiplap, whatever you're talking about. Especially if it's just on a portion of the wall. So it's going up, maybe halfway with a chair rail in Andrea's dining room. That sort of pops out as a feature. And so I think if that's how you want it to be, albeit, it's in a white, and most of her walls are also white, just a bit of different tone. I think that just sets it apart in a nice way. The other thing that I think would be a little confounding is then, what do you do about the molding that's on the wainscoting? If you painted the wall color, then is that the trim color, or do you continue that with the wall color? So I think that it takes all those questions off the plate, and you just do it. The trim, the molding, and the chair rail would all be in semi-gloss, pure white trim color. And I'm so glad you said that, because I did email her an answer. Sometimes when people ask a question, and I know it's going to be a week or two before the show airs, I want to give them an answer, because it's literally sometimes people email us and the paint is dripping off their paintbrush.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Sometimes they're like, well, never mind. I've already painted it.
I've already did it. Especially now when everybody's home, I'm doing this. What should I do? And you're like, we'll
try to give us a little time, though, in general, because, we get them, and then sometimes it's a couple weeks before we get to it on a podcast.
Right. But, so I did give Andrea my opinion, and I'm glad yours was the same.
Yes.
So don't forget to enter the giveaway for Amy's wonderful book, The Elements of a Home, and the link for that will be in the show notes. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and let us know what you thought about us having an interview segment. We would love to hear your feedback on that. And as always, remember, we're here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. I want to remind you that we are available for design consults. We take on your design dilemmas, questions, renovations, any project you want to talk about, any room, any space. We are here for you. And we really do enjoy doing these. And I think we've helped people a lot. So if you want to sign up for a consult, head to the link in the show notes. It's decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. We hope to talk to you soon.